joined, and welcome to all those who it's their first time. We are on page. We're doing Birkot HaTorah today. On page 16. 16.
Oh, 15, thank you.
Yeah, 16, 17. Okay, so last time we got through the blessings of washing our hands in the morning and the bathroom, and then afterwards we come in and we start saying Birkot HaTorah. So Birkot HaTorah, the blessings that we make on the Torah, we're going to read through them and then break it up a little and discuss it. Okay, so on page 16. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam asher kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Bless you, Hashem, Master of the world, that you have sanctified us with your mitzvot, which is how we start all of our blessing, and you have and you've commanded us to la'asok, to deal with, to get involved with the Torah. V'ha'arevna, and make it sweet. Now, you know what, let's start it. Let's go one at a time. So we have like this. We have a question. Diane's here. Hello, Diane.
Wow, it's hard to get on.
How are you? You climbed over the fence?
Not quite, but I am very happy to be here.
Hi, welcome. So we have with the Birkot HaTorah, as all blessings, we are asking permission to do something. So all of the brachot, all of the blessings that we have, for example, we want to eat something, we want to drink something, we make a blessing, and then we consume the thing that we are about to. I'm going to have a hard time talking and eating at the same time. So when we are, everything that we do, we make a bracha beforehand. The reason we're making a blessing is we are acknowledging, we're on page 16.
Thank you.
We are acknowledging that we are getting permission to use what we are about to receive. When we're going to eat something, then we say a blessing on that food. And by that I'm acknowledging that that food is from God, and He is giving me permission to enjoy this thing. The same goes for using the Torah or learning the Torah. We make a blessing beforehand, declaring that this is a gift from God, and we are asking permission to do so. There's only one blessing in the entire amount of blessings that we have that is a commandment in the Torah to make that blessing, and that is on wild guess. What is it?
Bread.
Huh?
Bread. Wild guess.
So bread before or after? Right? We make blessings before and after everything.
So benching is a blessing? Or?
Benching is a blessing. So benching is the only blessing that is explicit in the Torah that you need to say. Ve'achalta, ve'savata, uverachta. And after you eat and you are full, then you will bless God. Right? So when we're making the blessing for after the meal, that is a mitzvah from the Torah. There is a discussion in the Gemara whether for learning Torah, it is also an explicit mitzvah to make a blessing on learning Torah. Because of the importance of learning Torah, it is potentially, this has its own blessing. Now, like how we said beforehand, that everything that you are doing, you make a blessing and then you do it. Right now we are making blessings before we are starting davening. Because during services, we say a lot of things that are from the Torah, right? We are going to, after this, we have korbanot, which are the offerings that were brought in the temple. That's from the Torah. Then we have learnings about them. We get to Psukei de Zimra, and that comes from Tehillim, from Psalms. Then we get to Shema, right? All of this is from the Torah, from Tanakh. We are involving ourselves with the Torah. So the first blessing is, bless you, Hashem, that you have commanded us, sanctified us, made us holy with your mitzvahs, and commanded us to do what? What is that word over there?
Lovely, engross. What does it mean?
To engross ourselves. La'asok.
Envelop oneself?
Envelop oneself. To get involved with. To deal with. Right? When I'm learning Torah, how much am I learning? Is it surface value? Right? This is a problem that is not uncommon, that people learn something but do not bring it into light in any way, shape, or form, right? It is a completely hypothetical kind of learning, right? So is that the purpose of the Torah? Is the purpose of the Torah for us to learn it in yeshiva and then continue just learning it in yeshiva? Or is the purpose to learn it so we can live it? Right? The entire Torah is there as a relationship manual between us and God. What God would like out of our relationship. And therefore, we are learning it to be able to live it. The first blessing over here is to involve ourselves with Torah. Now, what do you say after this? I wonder, because this is another Ashkenazi Sfaradi thing. What do you say? V'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. What do you respond?
Not that I remember.
No. Okay, so there's two different opinions. One is that this is where the blessing ends, and that is how Sfaradim usually would finish it, right? Is they would count this as one blessing, and then v'ha'arevna, it's a new one, and most nusachim of Sfaradim don't say v'ha'arevna, but they say ha'arevna, okay? The difference is the vav.
Hold it, where are we?
We are on the second line, okay? V'ha'arevna, right?
Got it,
So
got it.
there's so for some of the nusachim, they don't say the vav, because vav, the letter vav over there, is meant as a vav hachibu, which means the letter vav that connects things. Literally, that letter vav means and. Okay? V'ha'arevna, and make it sweet to us. So, if that is part of the first blessing, then we would continue straight with v'ha'arevna. Sfaradim, a lot of different communities of the Sfaradim, stop over there and then say ha'arevna. And therefore, Sfaradim and Ashkenazim actually are trying to be very careful not to say this blessing out loud, because you put people in a situation of, are they supposed to answer amen after b'divrei Torah or continue straight away? Okay, and this is a discussion of that we're going to get to when we get to Kaddish, of when we say amen, when we say Birkot. We'll get to it when we're getting to Kaddish and understanding a little bit more of the blessings.
Can
Yes.
I ask, and you may well have covered, so apologies for being late. When you say words of Torah, do we
Yeah.
literally mean the 5 books? Because you said Psalms before. And I just
Wonderful.
wondered,
So
what does Torah
so we didn't
mean?
get to that yet, but we
Oh,
will
sorry.
get to that
Okay,
afterwards.
I'll
No,
back
it's
up.
great. It's a
Yeah.
great question. Okay, so Va'arevna is, and make it sweet unto us. Please make it sweet to us. Hashem Elokeinu ve'Elokei Eloheinu et divrei Toratcha, the words of your Torah, bifinu, in our mouths, u'v'fi amcha Beit Yisrael, and in the mouths of all of your children of Israel, right? The entire nation. V'niyeh anachnu, and we should be us, v'tze'etzaenu, and our descendants, v'tze'etzei, tze'etzaenu, that's Sfaradim, and tze'etzei amcha Beit Yisrael, right? So it's, for one, the Sfaradim, the way that they say it is, it's us and our children and our children's children, okay? And then, and for Ashkenazim, we say us and our children and all of the descendants of the nation, right? So it's just a different way of how it was formed.
So we say us and our children and our
Children's
children's children and the children of
Am Yisrael, yeah,
an
yeah. And another generation added in over there.
Yeah.
We felt like it was inclusive enough. Kulanu yodei shemecha, all of us should know your name. V'lomdei toratcha lishma, and learning the Torah for the sake of learning Torah. We'll get back to that in a second. Baruch atah Hashem, hamlamed Torah la'amo Yisrael. Bless you, Hashem, the one who teaches Torah to his nation, Israel. Now, two things about that. Number one is that concept of lishma. Why am I learning something? Now, the oral Torah is very important. When you are looking through the different Mishnahs of what you want to learn, it divides into different sections, and it covers different categories. So it's fairly organized, but then there's one that is just completely different than everything else, and this is Pirkei Avot. Pirkei Avot means the chapters or the teachings of our elders. And it literally is a collection of, if you had 3 things that were the most important things to leave on to your descendants, to your students, what would they be? And you write a Mishnah, and then what would you leave behind? Right? So Yehuda Nasi goes around and basically asks all of the rabbis of the generation, goes, what are the 3 most important lessons you want to leave behind? Right? And this kind of shapes, in a way, what everybody thinks is the most important lessons to have. One of the Mishnayot over there is, how should we be living our life? You should be worshiping God, not for the reward of heaven or punishment of hell. And if you look throughout ancient Jewish texts, heaven and hell are basically not mentioned. And if they are, it's not the emphasis of the discussion. It happens much later on, impacted by Christianity. The Catholic Church around the 14th century notices that not enough people are coming to church anymore, and they start scaring people. This is the concept of hellmouth and hellfire, the demons that you'll see in the cathedrals all over Europe, that there's a demon in the entrance of the church with his mouth open, there's fire in it, and people screaming, right? The little devil with a pitchfork.
Putting the fear of God into people.
Bringing the fear of God into people, right? That's where that expression comes from, right? It's scare the bejesus out of them, right? So now the idea...
That was a bit later.
That was a little bit later. But the idea
Lies.
that they're trying to bring, okay, was the church is trying to scare people into showing up and paying money, and this has an impact. It's not the first time, but that was like the big movement that this happens in. Then, we don't talk about it enough in Judaism. We don't talk about heaven and hell, reward and punishment the same way. And there's a lot of missionizing that's going around. Now, this is somewhat of a speculation because I have not found any explicit source to back what I'm about to say. But around that period of time, suddenly we start having in Judaism also a lot of talks around heaven and hell, right? It's a little bit afterwards, but it starts happening. And the speculation that of what I'm assuming, and I don't have any explicit source to back this up, is that there was a lot of missionizing that's happening at that time. And it's a sum-zero game, right? If a Christian comes and tries to missionize you and tells you, look, we're basically the same religion, right? You have an older version, we have the 2.0, right? Right, we're not that far off.
Yeah.
And the more you have interfaith conversations, you realize really there's so much similarities, right? We should be able to bridge a bunch of these things, but they come to you and they say, listen, if you accept Yeshua into your life, right? That's how we refer to Jesus. We would call him Yeshua, right? So if you accept Yeshua into your life, then you go to heaven. If not, you go to hell. So you go to your rabbi and you say, all right, what do we have? He says, nothing, right? Like, we don't talk about it because it's not the main focus in the religion. So you go, okay, I have nothing to lose. If I believe in this Jewish guy, right, that they claimed is the Mashiach, right? I believe them, I go to heaven. And if not, then I go to hell. And according to Judaism, nothing and nothing, right? Like, it's not a big, there is no real reward or punishment in that kind of way. Suddenly there's talks about heaven and hell in Judaism, and you go, oh, were the rabbis trying to scare everybody away from Christianity, right? And is it working in that kind of way? Again, speculation. I do not have any actual resource that backs this up entirely, right? But we do have a lot of talk of an afterlife. Not a heaven and hell, but an afterlife. And that was what we talked about a little bit more with Rav Eliyahu Dessler and the story of the fisherman, right? Of the fisherman with the diamonds, right? So that's a little bit more of the understanding, at least according to that approach of what heaven and hell is, which is if you realize what you have in front of you, it's heaven. If you don't, it's hell. And when looking at that kind of mindset, the Mishnah says you should be worshiping God not for the reward, and you should be avoiding sin not for the punishment, but you should do it for the relationship of it, right? The words that the Mishnah uses is the student serves the rabbi not to get the reward, but to serve the rabbi, right? To serve as teacher. Kids should listen to their parents, not because if not, they get spanked, and if they do, they get, a reward. They should listen to their parents because they listen to their parents, right? A healthy relationship between a husband and wife, a healthy relationship between kids and parents, right, needs to have the dynamic of not what am I getting out of it all the time. And the prayer over here, the blessing, the request is that we should have we should reach that place of a relationship that we are worshiping you for the sake of worshiping you, right? I want to do it for you. The Gemara has a lot of places where it describes this, that it says, if you knew when you sinned, you saw an image of God pulling his hairs in pain and agony because you are distancing yourself from him, right? And you can imagine this as parents, you can imagine this as children, right? What a parent feels when their child is disconnecting themselves from them, right? It hurts. And it doesn't even need to happen to you. You can imagine that kind of pain of your kid saying, I don't want a relationship with you, right? It doesn't need to be said in those words. It's being said in action, right? And the joy of your kid doing something for you without you needing to ask them because they love you right, is an unbelievable thing. Now, as parents, we know that you have an unconditional love for your kids. Your kids do not have an unconditional love for you, right? So the relationship over here is God loves us no matter what, right? Which is why God is in pain. If you decided not to have a relationship with your parents, you may not feel it the same way, right? It's like, my parents are difficult, I cut off ties with them, done. I'm having a completely normal, healthy life. Yes, no, maybe, it will impact other relationships, there's other factors to it, but are you in agony, are you in pain? If a parent cuts relationships with their children, that is always painful for the parent, right? The parent feels, I lost something, in a very, very real way. And in this kind of mindset, we're saying, God, you have the power to help us in this relationship, right? Help us want to have this relationship with you all the time from the pure place of wanting to have this relationship. Okay? That is that is either the end of the first blessing or the second blessing. Now, again, going for just like a tiny sidetrack on understanding why it could be divided into two, and that is there are blessings that are called long blessings and blessings that are called short blessings. If a blessing starts with Baruch Atah Hashem and ends with Baruch Atah Hashem, it can have virtually nothing else in between. It is called a long blessing. They're rare, they do not happen often, but this is an example, right? It starts with Baruch Atah Hashem, and it ends with Baruch Atah Hashem. That is a long blessing. A short blessing either starts with or ends with Baruch Atah Hashem. So according to the Sfaradim, this is two blessings, and it is divided after, right? Like if you read it, you can read it. Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, Asher Kidishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. Full stop, right? And then the next blessing is Ha'arevna, and make it sweet for us, right? So just an understanding of why this could be different, and if you go to different Batei Knesset in the world, you may hear people pronouncing it differently, having different nusach, so it's just always good to know. Okay? Third blessing, this one we're more familiar with. Baruch Atah Hashem, Elokeinu Melech HaOlam, bless you God, Master of the world, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Ha'amim, V'natan Lanu Et Torato, Baruch Atah Hashem Noten HaTorah. So before I explain it, where is it from? Where are we familiar with it from? Huh? The Torah reading, right? When someone gets called up to the Torah,
Yes.
right? This is the blessing they make, right? So now we'll break it up.
So this is a long blessing.
So this is, right? This is a long blessing,
Yeah.
right? It is a long blessing in and of itself, right? Even though there's very little context in between, right? When we'll get to the Amidah, you'll see that they're all short blessings. Atah chonen la'adam da'at u'melamed le'enosh bina chonen u'meitcha da'a bina v'askel baruch atah Hashem chonen adat. It only ends with Baruch Atah Hashem, and it doesn't matter how long the blessing is. That's a short blessing. So we'll break it into segments. Asher bachar banu, that you have chosen us from all of the nations, mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et torato, and you've given us your Torah. So this is this is a very famous midrash, or midrashim, a set of stories that are told in the Gemara of Masechet Shabbat. The Gemara Masechet Shabbat has a section that it talks about what happened when God gave us the Torah. Fascinating ones. But it talks about the fact that there's, first of all, an argument between God and the angels if man should have the Torah, and Moshe Rabbeinu, when he's up there is arguing why we should receive the Torah, and the angels are explaining how we are going to defile it, right? And it has no place in this world. But more importantly, it has the midrash that talks about the fact that God goes and offers the Torah to every single nation of the world. Okay? The midrash goes into great detail saying God goes to every nation. God goes to the nation of Edom, the descendants of Esav. And he says, I have a gift for you. Would you like to receive my Torah? And they say, what is in the Torah? God says, do not steal. He says, no. How can you not steal? We work in Wall Street, right? You can't possibly not steal, right? It's impossible. It's business. We have to. So God says, okay. And he goes to the Ishmaelim. And he says, will you accept my Torah? I say, what does it say in the Torah? It says, do not kill. Do not kill? Can you imagine such a crazy thing? Not killing someone, right? What if they crossed the line? What if they came into my property, right? What if there's honor at stake? Not willing to accept it. And God goes to every single nation and offers them the Torah. And at the end of this, God comes to Am Yisrael and doesn't offer them the Torah. God picks up the mountain and holds it over the nation and says, will you accept the Torah? If you do not, I will crush you, right? And we say, Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do and we will hear what you have to say, right? Because God is holding a mountain above us. So, we accepted the Torah.
So that was total coercion.
100%. And for generations.
That's not the story I heard.
Of course not.
Yeah.
You
It's not a nice story to sell.
you heard the preschool teacher story. Yes.
What?
So this is
How much do they cost?
so this is how much does it cost? It's free. We'll take 2.
10.
Yes.
No, we'll take 10.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's the 2 tablets. We'll take 2. Okay.
But no, so seriously, that
Yeah.
was coercion?
So according to the midrash,
Yeah.
God says, the whole world is created for a specific purpose. And that purpose is that Am Yisrael will receive the Torah. And if Am Yisrael will not receive the Torah, I will start the world over again. There's no purpose to the world, right? There's a lot of things in theology of Judaism, especially on the Kabbalistic side of things, go with an approach that the world needs Jews to exist, to keep the Torah, and to live in Israel. Those 3, that's the Holy Trinity, right? Those 3,
Away from it.
I couldn't escape it, okay. But there was those 3, need to happen, right? They need to work together all the time.
Let's have the 3 again. 1.
Am Yisrael,
Yeah.
Eretz Yisrael, Torat Yisrael.
Okay.
Okay? Torah, land of Israel, Jews, right? Or Am Yisrael. Yes.
Is there not a line, a quotation, which is that Jews are meant to represent a light unto the world?
Yes.
And if so, where does that fit into this?
So-
Trinity? And
So
does it fit into this
that is part of an understanding of what that is. God says, and you will be a nation of you will be a nation of priests, right, to the world. V'atem tiyu li mamlechet kohanim v'goy kadosh, right? This is your job, is to be a nation of priests. What is the job of being a priest? Is to represent God, to go and teach and lead by example, right? That is where the light upon the nations comes from. That's where the teaching and the saying comes from. But that comes from you knowing who you are, right? You living the way that you're supposed to, doing what you are supposed to be following, right? There's a formula. and we ignore the formula and then are upset that the recipe isn't coming out the way that it's
So
supposed
there's
to.
no coercion of people to accept. Purely, it's our example, is what you're saying.
Correct. We are not supposed to go around missionizing, right? That is very, very clear.
Mm.
We're not supposed to go around missionizing. We are supposed to lead by example. What does it mean to lead by example? We need to learn the Torah, right? We need to understand what the Torah is saying so that we can lead by example, right? There's no need for non-Jews to convert. There is no need for the world to be Jewish, right? It's not a Jewish idea. Anyone who would like to follow what Judaism says for the nations becomes a Noahite, right? The Ben Noach, they keep the 7 Noahite laws, right? Which is believe in one God, do not worship idols, don't kill, don't steal, don't commit adultery, don't eat parts of living animals, and build and create justice systems to uphold the first 6. Okay? Those are the 7. In Kenya, I had a very large group of Noahites, and we used to sit and learn, right? And it wasn't that they were looking to convert, right? They are going to live as non-Jews according to the Jewish way, right? What does Christianity demand of the world? To become Christian. What does Islam demand of the world? To become Muslim. What does Judaism command of the world?
No.
To be ethical people, right? I'm saying it's not nothing, right? It's to be ethical people.
But it does
Lead by
demand to
example.
believe in God.
Correct. That is the basis of being ethical, right?
Isn't it to lead by example?
Well, you are leading by example, and then so when you lead by example, people will ask you what to do, right? You need to be an ethical person, because no matter what, people will look at you and say you are Jewish, right? You may not think you look very Jewish, you may not think, but people know, right? And people come and assume things, and they will look at you and they will say, this is how God's people behave, right? This is why, by the way, I'm always very outwardly Jewish, right? I walk around with my tzitzit outside, I walk around with my kippah. Only recently did I cut my pelt, and it was just because they were getting too out of control. And it was driving Avital crazy. Okay? I've always been, like, I've never hid that I'm Jewish, and there are repercussions to it, right? Every single time I've been to Europe, I've had real uncomfortable conversations, right? And sometimes it ended with violence, right? I was walking in the street in Ukraine and a police officer saw me with a kippah and punched me in the stomach.
Oh,
Okay?
whoa.
Just because he's an anti-Semite, right? Like there was no, there was nothing before that. It was just, right? Just there's a Jew in the street and why not? But the majority of the time when I'm walking around, people will come and ask me, what are you wearing? Right? And then I tell them. And they will ask me, what does it mean to be a Jew? Because I've never met a Jew before, right? And then I explain. And I had a layover once in Greece for 18 hours. So I decided I was gonna go see the Acropolis. And I was walking around and someone came over to me and said, I have to ask, what are these strings that are dangling down? I said, I'm so glad you asked. These are called tzitzit. And he said, why do you wear them? I said, because I'm Jewish. He said, and I said, and this is a sign so that people will know that I'm Jewish. And he said, and why is it important that people will know that you're Jewish? I said, because we have an obligation, a responsibility to lead by example and teach. And this is what I try to do. So he said, okay, what are we supposed to do? We had a 7-hour hike together, right? And we sat and we talked. Yeah, and it was terrific. It could have also ended poorly. Sometimes they do, right? But whenever, in all of Jewish history, when Jews have hid that they're Jewish, it protects the individual and endangers endangers the rest of the nation. And when people walk around outwardly Jewish, always ends up being better for the nation. And it's not that it's without risk, right? But we know it, right? Everybody walking around with their necklaces with the Magen David, right? When before the 7th of October, people were not necessarily walking around, and then things got more dangerous and everybody took out their Magen David necklace, right? And you go, why? Why are you looking for trouble? It's because you realize you can no longer hide, right? It does not matter where you are. We're at the end of the world, right? We're at really, it's hard to find a place further than New Zealand anywhere, right?
Right.
And yet there's anti-Semitism, right? You go like, what do you care? Who are you? Like it's on the other side of the world. Why are you making so much noise? But it's here, right? And you have to deal with it. You have to face it. So that's.
I love the saying which says, if you ever forget you're Jewish, an anti-Semite will be sure to remind you.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a great saying. Yeah. Lilach, you wanted to say something
I want to
beforehand.
ask you about, you said the Muslim wants you to be Muslim. The
Christian wants you to be Christian.
And the Jewish wants you?
To be ethical.
Why are you saying that? Because I understand we don't want from anybody anything.
It's not that we don't want anything from anyone. We want people to be good people, right?
Do we actively try to change that, like the Muslims are trying to?
So we should, we are not, okay? So for example, you will see that Chabad does this in a wonderful way, that they have the 7 Noahide laws, they print it out in all languages. I was driving a few weeks ago in Israel, and I'm passing by an Arab village, and there is a big sticker, a Chabad sticker in Arabic with the 7 Noahide laws in Arabic, right? Lo tirtzach, lo tignov, lo tinaf, right? Like, it's great, okay? They do it. I've seen it in Korean, I've seen it in every language possible, because this is something that they do. At the time, the Lubavitcher Rebbe pushed for it, and I don't know if they're still doing it, but this was added in to the UN's minutes. It was like in the beginning of the opening of UN meetings, they read the 7 Noahide laws, right? I don't think they're doing it now. I think they've lost that a while ago, but the Lubavitcher Rebbe pushed for that to happen, right? We should be pushing for the world to be a good place with good people, right?
But by us being an
An
example.
That
not
is the
anything
majority
else.
of it. It's by us leading by example,
Yeah.
but I do think that we have a responsibility to make sure that governments have in place things to uphold. KFC, I think it was, had this years ago, that it was revealed that basically the way they're making their chicken nuggets, they were cutting up like the birds. It was they weren't killing them. It was just like they were throwing them in. It was this whole thing. It's one of the things that started like a big movement in the vegan. It was like a video that was going around in the early 2000s, and it made a lot of people vegetarians and vegans. Right? It was showing them how, I think it was KFC, they were taking chicks and just throwing them into blenders, right? Now, everything else aside, it's also a law for the nations that you are not allowed to eat a part of a living animal, which means if an animal, its leg is cut off before it dies, you are not allowed to eat the leg. And if you are throwing all of them in that way, right, then no one is allowed to eat from KFC. Regardless of kosher, it is not kosher by non-Jewish standards, right? Jews have a responsibility to speak up against that, right? And make sure that no one is eating parts of living animals, right? We need to be doing this in certain ways. How do I think we have done this throughout time? I think we have birthed Christianity and Islam who did it for us in a lot of ways, okay? Christianity and Islam came from within Judaism, right? We are the father of Christianity and we're the grandfather of Islam. And they have reached every corner of the world, in ways that we do not agree with, right? We do not agree with the way that the Christians were crusading around and missionizing, and the blood that was spilled in the name of love and the name of one God and all of those things. We do not agree with the way that Islam has spread around the world and is spreading today through the power of conversion of the sword, right? These are things that we disagree with in the core of our religion. However, when you sift through it, the goal that was achieved is the entire world knows that there's one God. I've been in villages in the far ends of Africa, right? And you know that people there, tribal people, who are worshiping ancient pagan gods, right? Still know that there's one God, right? You get to Southeast Asia, you're traveling. They know of Christianity and Islam. They know whether they're practicing or not is yet to flourish, right? But they know of it. You have the fact that there are systems around the world to uphold the majority. No killing, no stealing, no committing adultery, right? These do exist. The majority of the world does not worship idols anymore, right? Those things came through Christianity and Islam. They are by religions of Judaism, right? Are we active about it? No. Should we be active about it? Without a question, we should be active about the fact that we should be trying to make sure the world is living a more ethical life. It's a journey, right? And we are still in that path, okay? I can go on this for quite a while, okay? But the blessing ends with, and God gave us His Torah. He chose us and He gave us the Torah. So in the end of the Midrash that talks about the fact that God forcefully tells us, accept the Torah or else, right? There is a claim for generations of, if I am not living a religious or Jewish life, it's because I never really had a choice, right? It's the argument of clean your room, I don't want to, I didn't ask to be born, right? It's like, okay, but you're here, right? so clean your room.
I'm glad that line goes all around the world, not once but several times.
Yeah. So when we get to we get to the story of Purim, in Purim there's the concept of Hadur Kiblua Bimei Achashverosh, which means in the end Hashem forced us to accept the Torah, but we decided to accept the Torah out of our love for God in the days of Mordechai and Esther. After the miracle of Purim, we have reunited with God from our choosing, not from being forced.
Are you saying it took till then?
It took till then. According to this midrash, it takes till then for us to, as a collective, make a decision to receive the Torah in that kind of way. Okay? So, we have went through 3 blessings, and these 3 blessings tell us that God has sanctified us, given us commandments. We are going to involve ourselves and immerse ourselves in a life of Torah. We are asking that God will make it sweet so that we can enjoy it, and our children will immerse themselves in a life of Torah. And we finish with, thank you, God, for choosing us, because the reality is, if God wouldn't choose us, right? We say this a lot when someone comes to convert. You say, why are you coming to convert? If I had a choice, would I have chosen this life? It's not an easy life. God chose this for us, right? So when someone makes that decision to join us, we have a lot of love and respect for them, because they've chosen something that was by default chosen for us. Now, just like how if I make a blessing on a cookie, I need to eat the cookie, and I can't start doing other things. As soon as I finish making the blessings of immersing myself in Torah, I need to say some Torah. So what are the things that we're going to do? We have 3 different parts over here. So you'll see in the top of every single one, there's in little letters over there, the source of where it comes from. This one is from Bamidbar, from the book of Bamidbar, and it is the priestly blessing Birkot HaTorah. We're going to learn some Torah. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. We're in the 3rd section on page 16 or 17. It starts with Yevarechecha. Found it?
Got it.
Got it. Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha. Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'yichuneka. Isa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. God should bless you and look after you and look over you and protect you. God should turn his face to you with light and should what's the word for yichunecha? With gracious. Okay? With like chen. Yeah, like chen. Isa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. And God should turn his face towards you and should give you peace. So we are going to say a part of Torah just in case right after I say these blessings I start schmoozing with someone in shul, I get distracted, something comes up, I get a phone call, I'm on call, I need to leave, and I didn't have a chance to learn any Torah for the rest of the day, so that I do not have what's called a bracha levatala, a wasted blessing, right? So there's so in this case we're starting with some learning. Why yivarechecha? Any ideas? Why the priestly blessing?
It's also the blessing we say for our children.
It's also
Maybe it's also
right. So it's also a blessing we give our children, which is connected to why we say it over here as well. Any wild thoughts? The truth is, it's very simple. It's just a really nice way to start your morning. Right? It's a really nice way to start your morning, right? So while there were discussions on what to put in, one of them was the 10 Commandments. The 10 Commandments was actually decided not to be put in so that people would not claim the 10 Commandments are more important than the rest of the Torah, because it is not, right? It is just 10 out of 613 commandments, and there is no hierarchy, right? So we're not going to put those in. And there's discussions about other important psukim, but this is a nice one, a nice blessing to start our day out with, so we started with that. Then we go into immersing ourselves, right? So a problem that people have is sometimes if you're just so used to praying every day and you're in a rush, then you make the brachas and go, Yivarech Hashem, then you're not learning, you're not dealing with the Torah, you're not getting anything out of it, right? So the blessing is, I'm starting my day with, God is blessing me, right? And then there's a question is reading words of Torah enough to say these blessings? Right? We mentioned beforehand, we said the blessing is to immerse yourself, to deal with it, to always be dealing with anyone who would like cookies.
Oh.
Okay?
You have to have it.
So
You sure?
so
Thank you.
if I don't understand Torah, right? I'm reading in the book of Bereshit and I do not understand it, I still get reward for reading the words, right? I'm reading Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz. I get reward for reading the words, right? Whether I understood them or not is irrelevant. You need to read Torah. But to learn Torah, to learn is with the oral Torah, which means when it comes to the oral Torah, I need to actually understand, because it's the discussions, it's the practical side of Judaism, not just the theoretical. So I made a blessing to get involved and learn and deal with Torah. So it's nice to read words of Torah, but is that enough? So for example, you make a blessing on a cookie. You take a bite and you ate a crumb. Did you actually, were you what's called yotze, where you exempt, did you do the mitzvah of eating the cookie after the blessing? How much of the cookie do I need to eat for it to be a blessing, right? So there's a part of there's measurements, right? There's what's called a kazait, the size of an olive, a kabetza, the size of an egg, different opinions of how many grams of something do I need to eat? And we only ever remember this when it comes to Pesach, and you're like, how much matzah do I need to eat? It's 1 kabetza, 2 kabetzas. If I take it and I crush it down and I roll it up, right? It's a very different way of living, but everything is very much quantified. So how much Torah do I need to learn? Right? 1 word of Torah, just from the 5 books, or do I actually need to learn it and deal with it? And because of that, we have all of the opinions. One is, we start out with reading something from the Torah. Then we say, let's do the Mishnah. The Mishnah is the beginning of the oral discussions. Elu dvarim she'en lehem shiur. Here are things that have no measurement. So right now I said everything has measurement, and here's the Mishnah that says, here are things that don't have a measurement. Mm-hmm. This is from the Mishnah of Pe'ah. Pe'ah is a Mishnah that talks about the corner of your field as a gift to the poor people, right? So when I'm harvesting my field, I leave a corner. How much do I leave? Well, the Mishnah tells us you have no limit of the pe'ah. The corner has no limit. You want to be stingy and leave a tiny little corner? You could. You want to be generous and leave 40% of your field as a corner? You could, right? Habikurim, the first fruit that are brought up to the Beit HaMikdash, you can bring up a grape, but you can also bring up a vineyard, right? It's limitless. Hare'ayon, the Re'ayon is the pilgrimage of going and seeing of going up to the temple. So, how often do you need to come? How much do you need to be there? Ugmilut chasadim, and charity, v'talmud Torah, and learning Torah. So, this is the reason that this Mishnah is picked, because it says the limit of how much Torah you need to learn, it's limitless, right? But it also has no limit to the minimum, right? Everybody is doing it throughout their life and their day in their own way. We have this so that you will have something on your day-to-day basis. רגע, נסביר את זה אחר כך. אני פשוט לא מצליח להתרכז. Okay? There's no limit to the amount of Torah that you are obligated to learn. You should learn something every day, but there's no amount. If you've read this in the morning, you've learned Torah. If you said Shema and contemplated the words of Shema, you're learning some Torah, right? How much Torah? What's the limit? You sit and learn the entire day, right? There is no limit to it. Then we say, okay, so that's the beginning of the discussion of the oral Torah. But did I really immerse myself in it? Just to make sure that I covered all of my bases, I'm also going to learn some Gemara. The Gemara, the Talmud, is already more in-depth conversations about the Mishnah, which means it's talking about talking, right? It's learning about learning. So it's getting even more involved. This comes from Shabbat. אלו דברים שאדם אוכל פירותיהן בעולם הזה, והקרן קיימת לו לעולם הבא. These are things, here's a list of things, that a person will eat the fruit in this world, but the capital will be remaining for the world to come. Okay? In other words, there are things that you do in this world that you don't get to see the fruit of your labor or the rewards in this time. You only get the reward later. Yes.
Keren Kayemet means something completely different to me. So how does that tie?
So
Yeah, literally, help me.
your brain. So the word is keren. Okay, keren.
Is a-
So it means a few different things.
Mm.
Keren is the capital or the principal. Okay, thank you. Yeah, the principal. Right. So if you're making an investment, you have the principal, and then you have what the fruits that it bared beyond that.
Right.
Right. So there are things that you will gain also in this world and also in the next world. Right. We use the word keren for a few other things.
So
That,
when you have the organisation Keren Kayemet.
right.
Fund.
The fund.
Yeah.
So it's
thank
talking
you.
about.
Got it.
So it,
Got it,
so
got
it's
it.
coming
Thank
from
you.
the same place.
Thank you.
Okay, you have this in Israel, the keren hishtalmut, right? Like the keren kayemet Israel, kakal, right? The JNF.
So the Kayemet,
Kayemet means will live on, exist. So it will last
in
for,
perpetuity.
in perpetuity. Beautiful word. Okay, in perpetuity. Okay, for the world to come. Ve'eluhen, and these are the things. Kibud avaim, respecting your father and your mother, and this you benefit from in this world, because if you respect your parents, a few things will happen. One is you will get a long life as promised in the Torah, right? But you will also have your children will see how you respect your parents, and hopefully they will treat you the same way that you treated your parents, right? And and if you take good care of your parents, that helps them take good care of you. It works both ways. Ugmilut chasadim, charity. If you are taking care of others, you will reap the benefits in this world and in the next, because when a society works off of charity, people take care of each other. Vehashkamat Beit Hamidrash Shacharit ve'Arvit, and showing up to the synagogue early for the morning and for the evening. And this has to do, again, with community and society, right? So we're a bit of a small community, right? And we don't have services here 3 times a day. But imagine if we did. Imagine if we have services here 3 times a day throughout the week. Imagine if all of the Jews of Auckland live walking distance from here. What kind of mindset are you creating for your personal life? You need to be up at a certain time. There is no sleeping in. You have to be up because the community is expecting you to be there. Then you go to work. In the middle of your day of work, you stop and you come and join everybody again, right? And you pray. Then you come home, you have dinner, you stop, and you come and join everybody again. You have created a society that we are always seeing everybody and always taking care of everyone, right? If someone doesn't show up, you go, are they okay? Right? Over here, God forbid, if something happened to someone, if we didn't have a way to check on them, only on Shabbat we would go around and go, hey, I didn't see so-and-so. Are they okay? And this is already a better situation than a lot of communities are, where people don't show up for anything ever, right? And then really people can go unnoticed. Part of everything that we do around mourners has this aspect to it, which is someone is saying Kaddish and you go, why are you saying Kaddish? Let me take care of you. Let me realize that there's something that you are mourning that you have lost, and let's see if I can help fill that for you, right? You're in pain, we're your community. right? And if you live your life in, even now, if you can't have it in the community setting, but in your own personal life, 3 times a day, you are stopping what you are doing and praying, you're already on some sort of regimen, you're on some sort of routine that will already benefit your life. Hachnasat orchim, welcoming in guests, right? That also, again, builds a society. Bikur cholim, visiting the sick. Hachnasat kala, helping a bride who cannot afford to get married. So this is a very common thing that would happen, was a girl would be ready to get married, but came from a poor family, they weren't able to support them, she wouldn't be able to get married, right? If she came from a very poor family, the only person she'd be able to marry is a very poor man, and the two of them would live in poverty, right? If she wanted to marry someone from a bit of a higher standing, they would say, put up the money to take care of the couple, right? And if they couldn't get married. So often the father of these girls would go and travel to places and collect money to be able to marry off his daughters. And sometimes the community would do this on behalf of them.
As an aside, in other societies, like in Greece, for example, they give money to, as you perhaps know, they give money to the bride and groom, and in other societies they attach banknotes to the bride's gown,
Yeah.
and sometimes to the groom's jacket or whatever. So there is
So in Israel we do that.
I beg your pardon?
In Israel,
Yes.
it's most common to give money at a wedding as opposed to
But
presents.
in societies where you would think the
Yeah.
Greek Orthodox Church is prevalent, they still put the money. So there's you see threads, connections, however tenuous they might seem, they still exist.
Yeah, there's you have a lot of in Nigeria. They put money directly on your face, right? So you're sweating, and Moroccans do it all. It's all of Africa. It's Northern Africa, right? So the more you sweat, the more money you collect, right? It's like they just stick it on.
So is it Tonga or Samoa where they oil the child and you go and attach
It's
notes to them?
that's
Tonga,
hilarious.
Tonga. It's lovely. They oil
They oil the child
They
and,
oil the child
and-
and then people come
and put notes
not
on
to
it.
do with weddings, but I can't remember what it was to do with. But it was
It's the
very nice.
pidyon. It's the pidyon ben. And you had this. Look, you have communities that do this better than others. Have you seen Salach Shabbati? No? Oh my gosh, we need to do
And now I think we'll
we need to do, yeah, we'll do a movie night for the community. Okay, Salach Shabbati, classic Israeli movie of Jews coming one after the next, and they're coming and they're living in the slums, right? And they're coming out. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not thinking of Salach Shabbati, I'm thinking of Fiddler on the Roof for a second. Fiddler on the Roof. That you've seen. Okay, sorry. Fiddler on the Roof, when they're talking about how much the kanara lagag for the Israelis here. There's they're sitting at the table and they want to know how much people are going to give to the bride and groom. So they say, Mr. Kopovitz is giving 2 pillows to the new couple, right? And then everyone goes, "Ugh," and then the next guy needs to outstand him, right? So this is something that you find, again, in a lot of Sephardic communities, that they do this to make sure the couple is taken care of. They do this very publicly. So for example, my cousin married a Persian girl, and for the china, all of the gifts are brought in saran wrap. Okay, in like see-through saran wrap, so that everybody sees what everybody brought, right? So you are incentivized to bring a nice gift. I've been to occasions where the fathers of the bride and groom sit at the table and they say, "Thank you so-and-so for giving 1,000 shekel," and then they go to the next person and say, "And thank you too," right? And you just and if you don't outdo the person in front of you, right? Like you want to go first, then you want to be cheap. Because otherwise it gets bad quickly, right? But the bride and groom buy a house. It changes things. And then the last ones are ulevayat hamet, and walking the dead person to the grave, right? So it's the last escorting of the person. And this one is actually something that is interesting that it's over here because you get nothing from it, right? It's not necessarily that it benefits you directly, it benefits society, but you as an individual will never get repaid by the person who passed, right? This is why it's a real deep charity. V'iyun tefillah, and learning the tefillot, learning the prayers, which is what we are doing now, right? It is learning so that we can understand the prayers. V'ava'at shalom ben adam lechavero, and bringing peace between man and his fellow man, and Sfaradim, and bringing peace between man and his wife, is how Sfaradim add in. V'talmud Torah keneged kulam, and learning Torah is equivalent to them all. Now, this will be the last thing and we'll finish. This ends up being a misinterpreted ending to this Mishnah that is very problematic. There are many different interpretations to it. The interpretation that I go with is, and Torah is very important to learn, and it is equivalent to each one of these things, right? Because when you learn Torah, you will live Torah, you will do these things. And unfortunately, there are people who read this and say, learning Torah is equivalent to all of these things combined. Therefore, if I sit and learn Torah my entire life, but I'm not actually doing any of these things, I have still learned, and it is equivalent and more important than any of these things. And the answer is it's not, right? It's not, and if you read through this, you'll read that the majority of these things here are mitzvahs between man and fellow man, right? As opposed to man and God, right? The Torah teaches us how to live our life. But learning Torah without bringing it into this reality, into, I'm thinking of a word.
Practical.
No, there's a fancy word. No, there's a fancy word for it. It's without bringing into floration, that it doesn't bear fruit.
So fruition.
Fruition.
Is that the one you want?
No,
No,
it's
I
not the
don't
one
think
I
so.
want apparently. I'm told that's not the one I want. I'll think of it. It's a fancy word. I wanted to show off that I know a fancy word. I don't know a fancy word. So
Is there a
it's
dictionary in the house?
there is somewhere. It's in one of the boxes. So there's learning Torah needs to bear fruit, and if it doesn't, right, it's a problem. And this is other things that the Mishnah and Pirkei Avot teach us, right? They teach us that the Mishnah is the limud that doesn't bring, learning Torah that does not bring liyedei ma'aseh, right? To action ends up being forgotten. It ends up being as if it wasn't there, right? And we need to make sure of that. So now you've learned Gemara, whether you've learned Gemara beforehand or not, now you've learned some Gemara, right? And it is something that we do every single day, right? So after we make the Torah blessings, we immediately start with learning some Torah from Bamidbar, and this gives us a blessing to start our day with, and then we say, and how should we live our life? What are the things that we should be doing, right? Any questions on page 16?
Without wanting to open a can of worms,
Yeah.
is that also the thing of whether studying is enough not to serve in the army or to serve in the army, or is that a whole different can of worms?
This is a whole different can of worms,
Okay, then I'll...
but it does rely on this to an extent, right? It is part of what drives the ideology. It is, in my opinion, a misunderstanding of it, and it's not about, like, I would say, not to get into the whole conversation about Haredim in the army, because it's a very long and very loaded conversation. It's right now I don't have a problem with the individual. It's a problem with the leadership and with how they're educating towards, right? You can find proof for your agendas wherever you look, right? Any agenda, right? And this helps fuel that agenda. It is not the only thing, but it's looking at it and saying, learning Torah trumps everything else. And because it trumps everything else, then I can ignore the rest of society. And the reality is not such, right? We were not born in a vacuum. God did not create us in a world to live by ourselves, right? When you think of a monk in Christianity, a monk or a priest that wants to be holy, what he does is he goes and he lives in a lorry by himself. He goes to the desert, he distances himself from humanity so that he is not tempted by this world, right? Buddhist monks, Hindu monks, right? Release all of your earthly desires so you can be holy. In Judaism, a Nazir, very literally a monk, or a Kohen, a priest, is not allowed to live alone, right? If you heard of a rabbi who is single, right, you ask questions about that, right? When you hear of a priest that's married, you ask questions about that as well, right? It's kind of how the mindset of the religion is, right? We expect our leaders to be married and to live amongst us, right? We don't want, that is not how we view holiness, by distancing yourself from the world. So in a way, this is a very big argument of, are we supposed to be alone? Or are we supposed to live amongst the world and through that impact the world?
Thank you.
Lovely.
Lovely.
Thank you.